Good evening. Government has proposed to increase taxes on wines, spirits, beers, airtime, circles, social media platforms, and money transfers to push the envelope of revenue generation and lift an economy from a tailspin. It is estimated that government will miss tax revenue collection target by over 600 billion shillings, even as the economy grows at a faster rate than had been expected. Yet to some, the new taxes are detrimental and will relegate many Ugandans to the shackles of taxes, and this will destroy the entrepreneurial spirit. How can the country strike a balance to achieve economic growth based on a taxation that is in tandem with household revenues? On the spotlight is a panel of three. Mr. Moses Bekabye, a commissioner in the finance ministry, could say a technical director, the executive director of CSBAG, Julius Mukunda, and Mr. Ramadan Gobi, who is an economist. Gentlemen, welcome to the show. And for you, Ramadan, we could say Ramadan Karim. I'm sure you have broken your fast.
Thank you very much.
I think I made a mistake in introducing Mr. Moses Bekabye. You are a technical advisor, right?
Yeah.
Okay, let me actually even begin with you in this very first segment. Uganda will spend 30% of the country's 30.9 trillion shillings. That's about $8 billion on debt refinancing or payment. We seem to be punching above our weight in regard to the infrastructure projects that we're taking on. Is this not the source of the economy seemingly in a tailspin?
Okay, good evening, viewers. I don't think so, and that's not going to be the case because much of the financing, especially external financing, is building infrastructure. And infrastructure was identified as one of the key constraints to economic growth, was a constraint to competitiveness of the economy. And we think that if the infrastructure is completed and the economy is competitive, then you have faster growth and you have faster job creation. And over the medium term, or medium to longer term, the debt burden or the debt numbers are going to be coming down. In other words, once the major infrastructure projects have been completed and we are not borrowing as much, we're going to be seeing the debt burden really coming down.
Let me maybe bring your attention to the infrastructure projects that are being undertaken now and those that are likely to come in future, especially in the Graben. We have it on good authority that even if we have a policy on local content, for simple projects like supply of maram and sand, foreign companies are bidding for these jobs and in fact have been pre-qualified. If you have 40% of the money not even coming to Ugandan companies or Ugandan entrepreneurs, really, how do you expect the Ugandan economy to grow? Won't the money just come and turn around and go back in that case?
Post office. Yeah, that was the case before, but the government has taken measures to address this. There are efforts to increase the local content provisions in the Procurement Act, the PPDA law. There are guidelines which were put out to increase the percentage of the local content in the construction of, say, the infrastructure projects. And there are guidelines which are already in force, which are being strengthened in law to make sure that Ugandans actually provide some local input into this project. So yes, before that was the case, but it's being addressed and is being addressed at policy, administration, and at legal levels.
Mr. Ramadan Gobi, you are an economist. You actually teach economics at the university. When you listen to the technical advisor of the Minister of Finance, who is very upbeat about Uganda's outlook and how where the economy is headed, do you share his views?
Thank you. I will first also greet the viewers. I think we've had a very good and long debate on this economy, and many Ugandans now know what the economy is all about. You know, economy is like life. Nobody, although we usually greet people, you know, how are you doing? And they often, you know, respond that they are fine. Sometimes they are not fine. Economy, we feel it. We don't need anyone to tell us how it is doing. Lately, of course, there has been some rebound in the economy, some recovery. And this has been attributed mainly to, again, our usual, you know, good omen from God, that the weather is good. So agriculture has recovered quite very, very tremendously. But now focusing on what you've been asking him about now, the longer term, especially as far as that issue which many Ugandans are talking about of the debt kind of stock we have acquired. I think on paper is right. On paper, the debt of Uganda is not very bad. The debt of Uganda hasn't hit the threshold when they tell you that now you are in the red. We are still around 38-39% of GDP. But you know, as I have already said, those quantitative metrics we use to determine our debt burden, they are out of fashion, because even the custodians of these metrics, like the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, a couple of years ago, they authored a paper on debt, you know, analysis, and they advised the countries like ours to adopt a qualitative, more kind of multidimensional metrics of analyzing debt, instead of relying on this debt to GDP ratios, the fiscal deficits, and so on, which in most cases have duped countries to acquire a lot of debt. And even if they invest it in those important aspects, like, for example, infrastructure, if you are not so careful the way you are doing it, for example, how do we carry out our economic investment appraisals of these infrastructure projects? I know most people, when they are talking about these things, we are mainly focusing on the financial appraisals, NPVs. Once the net present values are positive and large, they say these are good. We'll go for this project. But the economics goes beyond that. You need to look at the well-being of the people today and in the future. Today, of course, many Ugandans, if you carried out a survey, if Gallup came here and asked them, many Ugandans will tell you that their lives have been quite, you know, hard in the previous couple of years. And even recently, business executives, when they were answering to BOU carries out that survey, you know, very regularly on the Business Tendency Index, which they try to ask the business executives to really give them an idea on how they feel the economy is doing and where it is heading. Although in the previous half year they had projected the economy to, you know, to be doing well, recently those kind of the optimism kind of went down. And these are now the kind of things we need to look at. Why do people feel that the future is not as optimistic as Finance and Bank of Uganda and others are looking at it? How do you bring in the rosy scenarios such that you really propel optimism even in the business executives and the different players in the economy?
Okay, let me bring in Julius Mukunda here. You are from the Civil Society Budget Advocacy Group, CSBAG, and you keep monitoring the budget. In fact, the budget framework proper, you debate it. I want to know, for example, our tax ratio GDP is only a mere 13%, right?
No, now it's 14, I think.
14%.
We have improved.
14.7%.
14.7%. 14 to be precise. But how can we grow the tax ratio to the GDP without really squeezing the poor person and killing the entrepreneurial spirit?
You know, and it goes back to infrastructure. We've been talking about investing in infrastructure, and the money comes in. We are like post office, just comes in, stops in our banks, and then it just goes back. It means that by the time it goes back, it has not had any economic impact or improved the, you know, for people to be able to benefit from the money.
Not substantial.
Yes, that comes in. So, for government to be able to expand the taxation base, and today we had a meeting in the morning around, you know, consultations, and for the first time, government is opening up to say, let's talk about taxes. Is that we have concentrated on very few tax heads. We have concentrated on very few people. If it's about taxes, you have to. The only thing you have is fuel, increase on fuel. If fuel is becoming very expensive, now you begin to look for other small things. You know, like, you know, now you have tax cooking oil, for example. You know, you want to tax, you know, mobile money. Even taxes that previously you had thought you want to ignore so that people can grow up and be better like Circle. After 1 year, you just thrash it off.
But Julius, you're saying that they are focusing on a few areas.
Yes.
Now they want to widen, and that bothers you a lot.
It bothers me a lot simply because is that in your widening, it is costing a lot now. Now you are squeezing the Ugandan who is already squeezed to, you know, to a point of probably now, you know, giving up. Let's look at this example, the controversial mobile money tax, for example. It could have been a low-hanging fruit for everybody. So let's pick it up and see what we can do. But because there was a lack of consultation, now this tax itself is just going to have two major things. One is that it's going to bring a reversal in the financial inclusion in this country. And the URA would have been better placed to collect more money if everybody is in the financial sector, they are already in the financial bracket of the country, so that you limit cash moving around. Secondly is that this has been a growing sector. We have realized that 60% of the people transacting on mobile money use between 5,000 and 45,000 shillings, and that's what we are looking out for. But they could have, if they had consulted, they would have done better, because they were expecting 155 billion Ugandan shillings out of mobile taxing money. But if they had said, for example, that let us increase exercise duty from the 15%, 17%, that is 122 billion flat. And also if we say let us tax cash outs discourage use of cash into the economy, they would have got 80 billion. These are calculations we have done, and we have got that one. That is even more than 155 billion. But let me tell you that as we expand, we have just got an example whereby farmers, for example, the dairy farmers, they would wait to collect their money from their circle for almost 2 days. You line up to collect the money because your cooperative has sold. You have taken your milk to the cooperative, and the cooperative has sold it to the other suppliers. Now, when your cooperative is paid, you are told that please on Saturday come at a certain playground and pick your money. You spend the whole day. But with mobile money now, when it came, they were able to get their money on their mobile phone very quickly and very convenient. So for me is that as we try to expand, we have been told that we have actually a potential to expand from 14 to 23. As we try to expand, two things must happen. One, open the gates, let us consult. That's number one. Number two, to increase compliance, every leader in this country must show an example to pay tax. Because if you find yourself that we have a very huge building across there, and the members there are not paying their tax on the member on
the Parliament of Uganda.
The Parliament of Uganda, and they are not paying on their allowances, and you expect Julius to pay, forget about it.
I mean, Mr. Moses Bakabi, you are the technical advisor, right? The ministry, and somebody would say perhaps this is also part of your input to suggest the mobile money transaction, 1% tax on mobile money transaction. And yet it has been understood to mean that you are really targeting the poor. How do you react to that?
Well, I think he's right to say that consultation is important, that we need to consult on a number of not only tax policies but also other policies that affect the public. We've been consulting on this mobile tax, and the good news is that out of those consultations and additional analytical work, especially the potential negative impact on the population in terms of poverty, inequality, the proposal is actually to drop that tax. So it's not going to be going ahead as originally proposed.
Well,
So
this is where sometimes the news break.
Yeah.
So you're saying
So-
you have really
so,
you have now lately
yeah,
understood
so
that
I
it was an error of judgment on the side of the ministry to impose this, to suggest this tax.
No. Once you make a proposal, then you consult on it, and after consultation, then you can reconsider.
We have made enough noise.
And you can reconsider, and that reconsideration, I think this tax is not going to.
So
that one is that shouldn't be an issue any
Where do you
longer.
intend to get the money that you want?
I think, as he mentioned, we're putting more effort in improving tax administration.
Okay, that would be good.
In terms of improving automation, in terms of linking up databases, in terms of ensuring that there is equity in taxation. In other words, if you're looking at income tax, everyone who gets an income should be taxed.
Yeah.
Yes.
So that it's even.
That is
Okay,
what
and the people who also, for instance, are in the agricultural sector, people have rental houses and all those kind of things. I think the strategy is to try to make sure that all those are included in the tax brackets. So things to do with border automation, scanning of, in order to improve efficiency and also to minimize under declarations. Those are some of the measures, administrative measures that we are looking at. But we're also looking at areas which are new. For instance, agriculture. I may be, going, I don't know what he trades in or what he keeps. This one looks like a cattle keeper.
Definitely.
Yeah, he may be having like 1,000 cows. He sells probably 100, but he doesn't pay any tax. So we are saying, even those people, who are in the agriculture sector and they have the capacity, they get the income and they have the capacity to pay tax, they should be able to pay.
But wait
so
a
those
minute.
are some of the things
you
that
want
we're
to target agriculture, which is a good thing, maybe to get some taxes there. But you are putting so minimal in the agriculture sector.
That's
less
not
than 4%
No,
of
that's
your
not
total
correct.
budget.
That's not correct.
It is correct, Moses.
That's not correct. When you look at agriculture, agriculture is supported by many other investments.
That's another
Wait. When you look at investment in feeder roads, you're supporting agriculture. When you look at rural electrification, you are not only supporting agriculture, but also agro-processing.
So when
in other words, the value chain.
when the government
wait.
met in Maputo and decided, and Uganda is the signatory to it, and decided to put 10% of their budget to agriculture, did they know that going to build roads? Didn't they know that there was health and education and all the other things?
I think in terms of the Maputo Declaration, I don't know how the formula was arrived at. But what I know is that even things like water for irrigation, or for instance, bulk water irrigation and all those kind of things, all those things actually support agriculture. So the budget for agriculture, if you actually analyze what supports agriculture, it may even be more than 10% that we are talking about.
But for me,
I want to bring in some empiricism here.
Okay.
Because this has been a debate, not only here, in so many places around the world. Should governments invest in agriculture or invest for agriculture? Investing in agriculture means get the money and put it direct in the sector. Investing for agriculture, we only invest in other sectors which are complementary,
including defense and security.
Then you also support it. Now,
you're right, yes.
Researchers have done research, and the empirics show that when you invest in agriculture, every $1 you invest, it generates about $3.1. If you invest for agriculture, every $1 you invest generates about $0.43, about 43 cents. How and why is it like that? And this is where finance needs really to encourage your decisions to be informed by research. That countries here in Africa which have increased their budgets, which they put in agriculture itself, have seen a tremendous kind of multiplier effect in the economy. Look at, for example, Ethiopia. Meles Zenawi just took a decision. He had this kind of debate, the late Zenawi, and the president knows this, and he called a man called Dan Roderick from Harvard, and Dan told him, get some money, put it in agriculture, about 12% of your budget, and you showed him econometrically, this is what you are going to get. So now he said, no, let me put 15. In Ethiopia, they put 15%. Now it has been about the case for about 7 years. And the result, my dear, the villages of Ethiopia have been transforming very, very quickly because of that. Now, here we are saying, when you put money somewhere in a feeder road, and even the feeder roads don't have money. By the way, you know very well that the infrastructure which supports agriculture in Uganda has been neglected. Money is being pumped in UNRWA to do the trunk roads. But when you go off the road, that tarmac road, and you enter into, you know, the deeper gardens of where the gardens are, and the farms of people, the roads are impossible.
Moses, we can be happy. We can travel from Kabong to Kasese on a tarmac road and even enter Congo. We can travel from Vura in West Nile and go to Virunga on a tarmac road.
Which is a good thing.
But what are we transporting on that road?
I think just to answer what Mr. Gobi is saying, what the government is doing probably over the last 3-4 years is both in terms of direct investment. For instance, when you look at the investment through NADS, the investment through operational wealth creation,
40%.
And no, let me finish. And other direct investments, for instance, in improving inputs for coffee, tea, seedlings, and all those kind of things, and fruits in eastern Uganda. Government is actually undertaking
and we are going to see the impact.
Yes.
Put more money.
But also, government is also facilitating other complementary, is investing in other complementary areas that support agriculture, and especially the value chain from agriculture to agro-industries to industrialization. So that's why you see there's a significant turnaround in agriculture over the last few months. And this is going to be a significant
is it not because of luck that God has brought
to our GDP?
Okay. But you see my point. Let me just raise this one.
Very quickly before we take a break.
Is that this country, gifted by nature, when it rains, we harvest. For heaven's sake, we know well that we shall never beat the Japanese in producing vehicles. But the Japanese will never beat us in growing beans and peas.
They're actually beating us.
If they will, if we continue doing the business as usual. If we're, and you can see what coffee has done. The story for coffee is exemplary because they have directly gone to, in terms of quality, they have now got their own law in place to ensure that they can be able to control the quality of coffee and export, and it has really tremendously grown up. So we should come back and learn from that and invest in a direct investment in agriculture so that we can increase productivity. That's the
gentlemen, we are going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll be joined by the Dokolo South Member of Parliament, the Honorable Okotogong. We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On The Spot. My name is Patrick Kamara, and my guests tonight are Mr. Moses Bekabye, who's the Technical Advisor and the Minister of Finance. We have Mr. Julius Mukunda, who's the Executive Director of CS Bank. We have Mr. Ramadan Gobi, an economist. And we've been joined by the Honorable Okot Ogong, who's the Dokolo South Member of Parliament. You're most welcome, Honorable Okot Ogong. What would the country do to revive the economy, which seems to be in a comatose?
I think Ugandan economy right now is not very rosy, not very good. But I think Uganda is potentially agricultural. And if we are to revive our economy, we should focus on production and also productivity in agriculture, because that is where we have the comparative advantage over all other countries around us, or even in the world. We have fertile soil, we have good rainfall, and we have the human resource, the human beings. So for us to revive our economy, we should focus on production, and production in the area of agriculture. And therefore, we should focus more on financing projects in agriculture. Secondly...
But the issues you're pointing out, Honorable Okotogong, are so clear. We have been having this comparative and competitive advantage for quite some time, as long as Uganda has been. and the managers of the economy of Uganda have not done so, do you think they have not tried, they don't care, or they don't get it?
No, I think the only thing they don't get, the whole issue, they know how to control the economy is only on the expansionary policy of controlling money circulation. And it's through the Bank of Uganda, whereby you just have to control the circulation of money. And secondly, you control the exchange rate. And that is why they have been constricting money, expanding money, and spending less in areas that are very critical in reviving the economy. And that's where we go wrong completely. And we have told them, if we are to revive this economy, we need to spend more in agriculture. Not only in agriculture, but in the area of adding value addition. For example, Uganda can produce everything that can be sold locally and internationally. Take, for example, tea, our tea. But we are not exporting the quantity that should be exported. We are not doing much in the quality of our tea. Look, for example, in the area of coffee. How much are exported?
In fact, when the tea is auctioned in Mombasa, it is not exported even as Ugandan tea. It is auctioned as Kenyan tea.
Kenya. And we so if you go little, because our process of marketing our tea is not properly done at all.
Mr. Bekabe, if what he's saying is true, and I think it is, the bulk of East Africa's arable land is here. In fact, even the remaining part that is not so arable, you can work with it, the areas of Karamoja.
Yeah.
So it's no brainer that if you put the money in that sector, where the majority of the people are engaged, they can contribute much more to your GDP, and then that's where you have your competitive advantage and competitive advantage. Why can't the ministry, where you are an advisor, think about that?
Yeah, thank you very much. Let me first and foremost respond to the statement made by the Honorable MP. Yes, the economy wasn't in a good shape a year ago or 2 years ago, but the recovery at the speed at which the economy is turning around has been very encouraging. For instance, the first quarter of this financial year, the economy grew by 7%. The second quarter, 6.6%, the second quarter. Okay, so if we continue with at this rate, you're looking at a growth rate of the economy of more than 6% on an annual basis. So an economy that grows at least 6%.
But do we feel it? I'm not feeling it.
Wait.
Why can't we feel it?
Let me come to that. Then there is the issue of the quality of growth. Okay, and then also whether or not people are actually participating in this growth. Okay,
That's a good one.
so if the people are not participating, in other words, there are issues of attitude, there are other issues of land, for instance, there are issues of finance and all those kind of things, which are the issues that we are addressing right now. Then some people are left out, while others are actually, those in production are going through it.
Yeah.
So the issue here is how do we mobilize everyone to make sure that they are productive. And if we improve productivity in agriculture, then it becomes attractive even for the youth to go back to agriculture. And that means that the household incomes, the number of households that will be benefiting from this growth will increase. And therefore, many more people will feel that the economy is actually growing.
You have looked at the budget. Yes.
So these are things that the Ministry of Finance is working on. Of course, the sector ministry has a leadership there, and I hope that the leadership there is also looking at these things. The honourable member mentioned something very, very important: improving production and productivity. That's key.
Yeah.
Both in terms of labor productivity, but also both in terms of improving industrial productivity, so that the agricultural products that we produce is turned into agro industry products or industrial products, okay, such as cassava. For instance, cassava, I'm told, has a potential of 39 industrial products, okay, and many other crops have that. So if we can enhance this and increase the value chain from agriculture to industry, then you're crowding in more people. And more people will start feeling that actually the economy is growing. So that's why
So why don't we do
that's
that?
why His Excellency the President, you've seen him, he has gone to all regions, try to mobilize. And it is his job also as a member of parliament to mobilize the population into production.
Okay, let me, Mr. Julius Makunda, you have looked at the budget framework paper. Have they put money that is going to increase production? Can they walk the talk? Because he gets it. He understands that we need to go into production, add value, and then we have people employed, and then we can. Is this budget likely to address that?
We budgeted for hose.
Sorry?
We budgeted for hose.
Is this the production you're talking
No,
about?
let me answer your question.
The whole point I'm trying to make. The whole point I'm trying to make is that we are not serious about investing in production and productivity.
Yes.
Let me give you an example. So if you say hose will bring production and productivity, we can have another argument another day. Let me give you 3 examples. One, if you want productivity and production, look at Sorot Fruit Factory. If government can really ensure that that works, then you know the whole of Eastern region, which people have been good at producing mangoes, oranges, it will definitely uplift their status.
Yeah.
And I think for me, that's where you should be going. Look at I have my example of Nakaseke, the tomato sauce factory.
Yeah.
It collapsed. Why? That they didn't have the market. In my mind, I'm asking really, of all these tomato sauces we import from outside, how can we
American Garden is on
how can we fail
is in our
to make sure that this factory works out and helps farmers who are engaged in the production of tomatoes have value addition and also get better prices? Look at the Uganda Egyptian meat factory along in Entebbe.
Yeah.
The thing is not working.
Bombo Road.
And I'm asking myself, where are all the cows that we have in this country? So if we're a serious nation, we would even give them affirmative action. Because we know that once they are producing, our farmers will be interested in ensuring that these factories are revamped.
Okay, Ramadan, how then does the Harvard report and the IMF report show us that Uganda, in the next 4 or 5 years, will be the fastest growing economy in Africa and maybe only second to India in the world?
Those people, I wrote to them directly. And I told them they should provide us with their data.
Yeah.
And also I requested them to explain the methodology they were using. You know, apparently, there is a student who was doing his postgraduate study there
at Harvard.
And he did some kind of modeling on economic competitiveness, and he found that Uganda, and actually it's quite amazing or funny. The factor is saying which is going to drive this growth is population. He said Uganda has a very younger population and one of the fastest growing, and that we are likely to benefit from the dividend coming out of that to propel the economy. Now, checking on population dividend, some of us who have this background of development economics, you only attain a population dividend if you have actually done the opposite of what we are doing in Uganda. You have invested in people quite very deliberately. We haven't done that. The rate at which we are investing in our people
cannot give us a demographic dividend.
Give us that demographic dividend. So definitely, I don't want us to waste a lot of time on that. We have the potential to be one of the fastest growing economies in the world, but we need to concentrate on how. The how is the most important thing.
Honorable Okotogong, your job as a member of parliament? Yes,
I was going to first underscore this. That's when now you come in what the two have been talking about. What Mr. Wekabi is talking about is very, very critical. And that's what should be done. My only worry is that it is coming from finance that is in charge of the budget. And Mr. Wekabi is speaking in normative economics. For me, I thought it's a preserve of those who are not in charge, who are saying they should be, those who are devising others, like those in opposition, like those in academics. They are the ones who should be speaking that this should be done, this ought to be done. But you know, these are the speeches we often hear. The president himself is going to read the State of the Nation address. You will hear a lot of we should, we ought to. Me, I thought really by now we should be saying this year we have budgeted for the following, and the next year we are going to do this after accounting for what we have done. That's the kind of language I would want to hear now.
Honorable Okotogong, you are a member of parliament and a senior one at that, because you've been representing Dokolo for quite some time.
That's true.
There is a moment when you are supposed to allocate resources. In the budget, I'm talking about the budget.
Yeah.
As parliament, you allocate.
Yeah.
But also, as parliament, you have that right to see the utilization of the funds.
Yeah.
So are you doing that job well? Are you allocating resources or misallocating them? And do you really follow them as parliament to see effective utilization?
That's a good one. But I want to start with what he said about the growth issue. I want to inform him that their growth issue is about vertical growth. It is not horizontal. Vertical in the sense that very few people are moving forward, are actually growing. Yeah. But horizontally, our masses are developing in poverty. So they are not growing. So the 10 is benefiting on behalf of the 90% of the population. So that growth is not properly balanced. That's why we must talk about mass growth, not vertical growth that is being planned in our economy. Coming to your point is that Parliament comes to appropriate resources, but it is the executive that allocates, that prioritizes the budget. They start by the sector group meetings. He knows about that. They prepare the budget, get all from all sectors of the economy. They bring it a budget framework paper that comes to Parliament, and it goes to different committees of Parliament.
There's even a budget committee.
There is a budget committee also.
Yeah.
So from there,
I think headed by the Honorable Ogolo.
They always talk of the budget ceiling. So when you go to this sector, there is budget ceiling. You go to this one, there is budget ceiling. And Parliament has always made recommendations, very, very good recommendations, but it has never been followed by our colleagues in the executive. We want them to focus more on the Maputo Protocol. Because as I told you earlier, if we can focus only in agriculture, adding value, focusing more, then Uganda can...
Agriculture and manufacturing.
Yeah, the manufacturing, because adding value,
that
will employ more
Mr.
people.
Bekabye, if you have a parliament, which is another third arm of government, that is trying to advise you and is telling you, look, you ratified, you are a signatory to this protocol, and they are showing you that can give you good results day in and day out, every year. Why don't you listen to them for once?
I'm actually very disappointed by what my friend has said, because the role of Parliament is to appropriate.
Yeah.
For sure. They make the budget law. In other words, they approve the expenditures. Our role as technical people is, based on our technical knowledge, is to make a proposal to budget to Parliament. And Parliament,
yes or no?
and Parliament has the legal framework to actually change what the proposals will be made. They have the Budget Act of 2001, which is a very powerful, it's a small law, but it's extremely powerful. But also, they have committees, the ones you've talked about. They have the Committee on Parliament, but they also have sessional committees, which look at the various agencies. So to say that these people, they come and then we go back and so on, we account to Parliament, okay? All the time, we account to Parliament. And it is Parliament that actually has the power to allocate and to approve these funds.
So again, Okotogong, why hasn't the Parliament used its powers?
So why haven't you?
What my friend is saying, it is what should be, but it's not what is happening.
Why?
Why? Because our budget is participatory. Government comes with a proposal, Parliament looks into the proposal and advises government, because you must know that the Parliament advises the government. But when it comes to the time of appropriation, that is the time he's saying that Parliament should take.
There was a time, I think it was on health issues, when you
Yes.
refused to pass a budget.
Yes,
When
and
you used your power.
we use that.
Then
power.
why don't you use your
But you
powers
know,
for
how
proper
long-
appropriation?
But how long did it take us?
But at least you use it.
We
We
use the power,
yes.
yes.
But you see, at times, you know, people
Like
don't
this
listen.
year, Honorable, why don't you refuse the budget when it hasn't spent that money, as you have said here, on agriculture and those areas of manufacturing?
You see, as I told you, you must look at the process of our budget process. You start by consultation. After the consultation, we get the budget framework paper from government, their proposals.
Yes.
We looked into the proposal committee by committee and make recommendations to government. And we follow those recommendations that you need to implement what Parliament has recommended. But year in, year out, we make over 100 recommendations.
They don't act.
They don't act on them. It becomes a cycle. Today, tomorrow. And when they come say, Parliament, this is yours, we are just seeing. But in reality, that is not what is happening. When you now act, then they go to reallocate. You see now, they go on to reallocate money. You have already appropriated the money. The release is not coming. By the time, you should ask them, how do you release money? It comes late. How much release? At times, some of the money are reallocated within the sector. It becomes a big problem for Parliament even to monitor.
But the budget process we have today, which was also approved by Parliament in the Public Finance Management Act, really transformed everything. You know, the approvals are done on time. Parliament is allowed adequate time to interrogate the budget, make reallocations where proposals,
Make recommendations.
And so on. But our budget process, I must say, is one of the best in Africa or the whole world, because it is participatory.
Normally,
It is very, very participatory.
Okay, Julius, fiscal prudence is a gospel preached, but rarely do we match it in action. Senior government officials, members of parliament like him, continue to spend billions of shillings on travel abroad, to go on holiday, try out expensive tests sometimes. We continue to waste money in workshops whose results are never implemented. Is this not the cause of the disease that is afflicting Uganda's economy?
I'll give you a solution.
And I think for me, that's where the monster is. That's where the biggest problem is that we are our appetite is so high to spend on anything that we forget now that we have an agriculture sector where more than 70% of the population is, and that it contributes 25% to the 22% to the GDP and also 1% to revenue. Now, because
22% GDP when it is employing over 70% of the population.
and
Yeah,
it contributes
71%,
and it
actually,
contributes
more.
to 1% to the total revenue. So you can see that kind of mismatch. So discipline in terms of ensuring that where should we spend the money, can we set our priorities right, is one of the biggest challenges we face as a nation. And I've just told you, you want to increase productivity and production, and the thing is you need to budget for hose. And I was asking myself, how that?
So where is the impact of civil society organizations like yours, CSBAG and others? Every time for budget, you sit, you always negotiate, you debate, and I've seen you in so many. In fact, even today you're in another meeting. Is it another kind of workshop, talk shop, and all that? Because if they are not listening to you and you're talking every day,
That's how we collect these per diem.
And I
Okay.
I don't know about that. He can say that, but I think we have what happened is that you can see the kind of parliament we have is that if you don't have, for example, him who is a bit more progressive,
how do you know that?
you are likely to face so many challenges that you need that our leaders, these people who really are supposed to help us in terms of ensuring that we have the right policies and priorities in place. I think there is something very important that is lacking into them.
Okay, let me read this because I've just gotten it from my producer that we have seen plans by members of parliament to increase their salaries from 11 million to 24 million shillings each, which will lead to a staggering 90 billion shillings increment in the wage bill. We have also seen proposals to increase allowances of senior government officials, and somebody is wondering, why do we continue to deprive the poor to feed the rich?
But the issue of parliament, that was clarified by the speaker, because it was on the newspaper, it was raised in parliament, but that thing is not there. It is false. There is no attempt, there is no move to increase salaries of members of parliament. When it comes to senior civil servants or civil servants, they are mismatched in the entire thing. Others are paying very high, others are very low. So the compression rate ratio is very high, from the highest to the lowest. And we have asked government to put in place salary
To rationalize.
review commission to rationalize all these salaries, so that it is the compression is not so high. But we have not got that review commission in place, and we have always, as parliament, been urging government that let's do this, because that will bring sanity in our salary sector. And people are complaining. Others are earning 50 million per month plus salaries. Others are on 200,000. That compression rate actually is very high. So we need to reduce it from the highest to the lowest. And we have always asked government to really take action, immediate action, to ensure that commission is put in place so that everything is rationalized. And we put that to rest.
Okay. And how I wish that commission also include that also they can decide on the emoluments of members of parliament.
Oh yeah, the emoluments of members of parliament.
And I mean, really, it begins with leadership. You know, it begins with leadership to say, let's all be under one commission to determine our salaries. I can tell you, everybody will be willing to pay taxes.
Is that an idea parliament could pick?
You see, like now with parliament, I see it in a different angle. That parliament pays tax, like pay as you earn. From our salaries, we pay, and he knows it very well. But when it comes to allowance, these allowances are refunded to members of parliament. When you go to your constituency, you put fuel, you put what? You have already paid the tax. When you put fuel in your car, you have already paid tax. So when that money is refunded, and again it is the tax, then that means it's double taxation, which is not fair at all. When you maybe go somewhere, you are given allowance, and in that allowance, you sleep in a hotel, you buy certain things, you buy this and that. Whatever you have bought, it is already taxed. So when you are claiming for your refund, and again you are taxed, that means double taxation. That is what we have been explaining. It is a refund.
You see, that principle is okay. Can it apply to everybody? Why should it be selective for only members of parliament to decide and say, for us, we shall not pay tax on these allowances, but everybody, please do pay? You see, that is the whole thing.
No, but there are certain allowances that are a remuneration for the work that you have done.
That's what I'm saying. That one is only for members of parliament. But for everybody else, including me and him, if you amalgamate all your allowances into a consolidated income at the end of the month,
it will be taxed.
So that's the only problem. But if they would say, oh, please, from now onwards, everybody is going to be the same, it's okay. It becomes fair and even.
All right. Maybe let's move on now. Is the middle income economy dream, Mr. Akabia, still alive? Because you have a target of 2020, which is only now 2 years away.
The middle income status of 2020 is an aspiration.
Oh, now you're changing the language.
It's an aspiration.
No, it was a goal.
No.
Target.
Yeah, it's a target, but also a vision. Okay. What I want to say is the following: that the Uganda economy, particularly when the current investments are completed, is going to be growing much faster, and therefore will be able to attain a middle income status. It may not happen in 2020, but it will happen in the near future.
Yeah, we can also attain it, but the population doesn't feel it. Is that also possible?
Sorry?
We can attain the status, the middle income status, but the population does not feel it, because a few people can amass wealth.
No. When you calculate, when you look at what is happening now, in other words, increasing productivity in agriculture, increasing investment in agriculture, trying to crowd in a significant portion of the population into the economy, over the medium to longer term, as I said, many people are going to be feeling this growth. But also I want to say that you cannot just sit around, okay? Like I come, I sit around and expect an income. So we need to be working. We need to work hard.
Yes.
And the politicians, like my friend
Yes,
here,
yes, yes.
we need to mobilize the population into production. The youth, okay? The youth needs to be demobilized from waiting for handouts, okay? And also to create opportunities for them to get involved in the economy, okay? So that they can actually earn this kind of income that we're
You know,
talking about.
when you go to Noya district, for example, you can see that for those who know agriculture, they have gone into agriculture, and these are people who have come from other places in the world, and they are doing agriculture at a higher level, you know, using irrigation. So I'm wondering whether government or the budget is putting water for irrigation, for example.
Yes. The government...
Or you're going to go the bottle, the jerrycan, and the bicycle?
No. The government is prioritizing both small-scale irrigation, but also bulk water irrigation. And also, what is happening in agriculture is linking the small farmers to the bigger farmers, to the medium and large farmers. By doing so, you're actually creating a chain, and you're creating an opportunity for the big farmers to actually finance the small ones, and also pass on the technology and knowledge to the small farmers.
Gentlemen, we're going to take a break. When we come back, let's look to the other potential that we have. We'll be answering that. Because the area of tourism seems to have also been neglected, yet it could just bring us a lot of money. For example, government borrowed money to build I think a tourism school in Jinja, but that money has never been used. For the last 5 years, $12 million, and the school has not been built. Why? We'll be right back. Welcome back. You're watching On the Spot. My name is Patrick Amara, and my guests tonight are Honorable Okoto Gong, Mr. Ramadan Gobi, Mr. Moses Bekabye, and Mr. Julius Mukunda. And I wanted to change gear and look into the tourism sector because it has a lot of potential. Apparently, it brings in about $1.4 to $1.6 billion to Uganda's economy. And I'm wondering how much is the ministry putting into the sector for us to market it, to promote it, and also to bring to attention, Honorable Member of Parliament, government borrowed money to build a tourism training school in Jinja. I think it should have been like 7-8 years ago, about $12 million. Up to now, the school is not there. And the money is losing because we have to pay interest.
Actually,
why isn't Parliament forced?
No, that one is actually within our committee of tourism. And as a committee, we have insisted that that project should continue. And right now,
when was the money borrowed, for example?
I think it is in a very high gear, and that money will be utilized. That money will be utilized.
I'm saying this, Mr. Bekabye, if you want people to manage a hotel in this town or anywhere in Uganda, you will not find them. In fact, you'll find our brothers or sisters from Kenya, they're the ones taking the managerial positions. In fact, if you're even looking for a chef, in most cases you'll have to go across. Yet, government borrowed money to build a tourism training school where all these jobs, all these people could be given skills. And we haven't. And we're sleeping on the job, and yet the money is paying interest.
Yes, I have no specifics on this particular project, on this school that you're talking about. But what I can say in general terms is that we need, and we are putting a lot of effort in trying to improve hospitality, for instance, improve the infrastructure around the tourism sites, and also trying to improve the marketing. I think the marketing is really doing well, because when you look at globally, even in the magazines, you fly on an aircraft now, you say story about Uganda's tourism, and so on and so on, CNN and all those kind of things. I think things are happening, but in terms of improving the hospitality I think we are still falling short of that, and that's an area that where we need to really focus. But as you said, tourism has a significant potential.
Look at our neighbors in the south.
Yeah.
They have just signed a deal with one of the Premier League teams in Europe, and will be showcasing, advertising them. I'm talking about Rwanda. In fact, if you fly into Kigali today, you may even think that the mountain gorillas, like 80% of them are in Kigali, because they have made positive noise about themselves. In fact, if we are not even careful, the source of the Nile, at one point somebody will say, there's nowhere how a river begins in a lake, so they'll have to look for it somewhere else. We can lose that story as well if we are not careful, because the world runs on perception and image, and we seem not to be putting our best image forward. Why?
Yeah, that's correct. We are not perfect. However, efforts are being made in order to address some of these inadequacies.
No, but I think Uganda now, we are in the right direction.
Yeah.
When you look at our budget, 70 to 80% of our tourism roads will be worked on. That will actually boost tourism. When you look at advertising, we have hired one of the best agencies in Europe and the US to market Uganda.
That's true.
And when you look at the inflows of tourists into our country, it is actually moving at an exponential rate, very high.
And they are reviving the airline.
The airline is also going to come. The people are very friendly. Actually, Uganda is one of the friendliest countries in the whole world.
If you are traveling from, your tourist traveling from Kampala to Bwindi or to Kasese, where are places of convenience? If someone wants to go for a short call, well, you expect a guy who has flown from Washington D.C. or Japan just to go in a bush?
Actually,
because that's easy.
No, next time you need to actually invite those people, because right now there's already a project for 25 of those stations to be put along that road, all tourism roads. There are about 25 stations to be put in place, so that when you branch around, you get something.
Do you know?
And we also join
I know of a case of a tour guide who was having people, and they're like, no, we're not going to take the water, we're not going to have lunch, because we know we'll be around in the road for about 2 hours, and there's no place for convenience.
No, that one is not good.
And people could not. And that's how Uganda.
Yeah.
No, I think, as the Honorable has said, I think this is improving, and is improving fast. When you look at the road going to Gulu, Kampala Gulu, the private sector is actually investing quite a lot.
Actually, I know 25 of those facilities.
But we need also really to get serious, because we may say that we are improving as a blanket kind of statement, but we need to look at what steps we are doing. Are they practical in getting us where we want to go? Definitely brought an example of our neighbor. They have hardly even a quarter of what we have here in terms of tourism potential, tourism attractions. But you can see the kind of aggressive, deliberate efforts they are taking to getting their country known out there and fetching this money. In Uganda, we get some money from tourism, some good money, about $1.2 billion a year. But how much do we put in? You need to go and look at this budget, for example, which is going to be read next month. The ministry responsible for tourism, you will find their budget is hardly even a tenth of what would be there, ideally to get this sector moved. I know of certain players in this sector who have been over the years been crying, for how we are not taking this sector seriously. In the same way, we are not taking fish seriously until government came up, and once they invested in fish, you saw what it did. It fetched us a lot of foreign exchange. Now, this is a country which has not yet perfected the game of the manufacturing, so that we can export manufactures and be able to earn a substantial foreign exchange. Our trade balance is doing so badly that it is written here on the Ginger Road. When you see the export-import, it is there on the tarmac.
The tarmac, you can see there's a depression on
the side of the import has sunk in, the one of export is smooth. So trucks are going empty, they pick the imports and come. And
they're going back with the dead weight.
Yeah. So
let me open the lines so that Ugandans are watching, and sometimes we even have people who watch, Ugandans who are in a diaspora. They call on the show and tell us what they think. So this is the moment when you also have to add value to our discussion. agree with them or not, so that we know where are we going. Are we reaching the middle income status by 2020? Are we doing the right things? Is the parliament doing its the right stuff? So let me take the first call online. I have a caller. Hello.
Hello.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Bernard Mujasi, calling from Mbale.
Bernard Mujasi from Mbale. Is that the LOC5 chairperson?
Yes.
Okay, we are honored to have you online, sir.
Yes.
Okay, don't mind about the echo. Please just give us what you have to say. If you hear an echo repeating, just ignore it.
We have lost him.
No, Mr. Mujasi, you're on air.
Hello.
Yes, Mr. Mujasi, you're on air.
Yes, this is Byron calling from Nsanja Police Barracks.
Okay, I think okay, go right ahead, sir.
I want to first thank the panelists, the honorable, the economist, the commissioner, and that Pittsburgh executive director. But in the beginning of the show, someone raised the question whether they are investing for or in agriculture. That question was not answered.
Whether we are investing
In
for
agriculture
or okay, yeah.
or agriculture.
I think Moses should be able to answer that question for you.
Yeah.
All right, thank you very much, calling from Zambia. Let me take another call online. Hello, I have a call online. Hello.
Yes, hello. Good evening, panelists.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
My name is Tony, and I'm calling from Mbalwa in Namugongo.
All right.
Fine, thank you. Now, you've really hit on very good points, but I'd like to stress on the issue of deliberate interventions to turn our economy. Mm-hmm. We have talked about agriculture, we've talked about tourism. I personally do engage, I'm a tour operator, but we really see very little being done to really improve on the attraction of these tourism destinations. Mm-hmm. As compared to our next door neighbors. We can tell you that the government is doing a lot in attracting the tourists, but then we are getting very little in referrals, because the moment they land in Uganda and experience and see certain things, they will come to the realization that actually certain things are not as good as advertised.
Okay.
Now, I'll give you a few examples. Mm-hmm. Go around Lake Bunyonyi. It is very easy for you to find human excreta just around where people bought the boats from. What is Uganda Tourism Board doing about that? Look at the source of the Nile itself. Look at that metal fabrication. It's a metal fabrication. And this is something you want someone to come and take and pose a photo next to, and you think this is something that is going to advertise us as a country. Mm. That should be something so memorable. A golden plate of salt to show the importance of that point, the source of the Nile.
You know, I agree with you entirely. The source of the longest river in the world, somebody's got to improve that place and make it look better. What the situation there, how it looks like, it doesn't give really, it doesn't show the grandeur of the Nile.
We have built a good bridge there.
Okay, let me take maybe two more callers and then we can wrap it up. Hello. Hello? Okay, that one is not going to talk now. Let me try another call online. Hello? We have a call online. Hello?
Hello, good evening, Mr. Kamal.
Good evening, sir. What's your name and where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Jinja. My name is Isaac.
Isaac, you're on air, sir.
Yeah, thank you for the show.
You're welcome.
I just want to request the government here. We have here in the Jinja source of the Nile.
Yes.
But when you are reaching there and you see what the source of the Nile for sure, you cannot believe it. So please let government at least do something about the source of the Nile.
I agree.
It is very, very, very...
I agree with you, because when you go there, it doesn't leave anything memorable. Because, I mean, it should dazzle us. There should be a wow factor. Yeah. You know,
On it, really.
There should be a wow factor on the source of the Nile.
You can even pass it thinking there is another source of Nile.
And I've got here a message that has come from the Honorable Amanya Mushega, and he says, how come they never think of reducing wasteful expenditure to cut costs and then have a budget within our means? Our time seems to be out. I thank you, all of you who have tried to call in. I know somebody has been trying to call on my phone, but you cannot. I can't pick my mobile and be able to do this. Probably if you want to call, you have to call the numbers which are shown on the screen. Beginning with you, what's going to be your concluding remark on the show tonight, considering what the people have also said?
I think for me is that Uganda is a very rich country. We have the potential to grow, and we need to take advantage of the nature that we have. For example, we have very good rains that we have been talking about. How can we ensure that we invest into that, ensure that we can increase productivity? Talking about tourism, and I have said the Japanese can beat us in anything, but they will never beat us in having gorillas. We have them here, everybody will come and see them. So how can we invest to ensure that everybody comes to Uganda and we get from what we want? And lastly for me is to call upon our political leaders here and other decision makers, is that certain taxes are hard. It's yes, we want to increase the taxation base, but I think we need to be very careful to ensure that in an attempt to do that, we shield off those who are very vulnerable and ensure that everybody can enjoy the development that we all want. Thank you.
Mr. Bekabi.
In my case, I just want to re-echo the fact that the economy is turning around quickly, and we are overcoming some of the challenges of competitiveness. The investment in infrastructure has been positive and is likely to bring about competitiveness in our economy. So the economy is likely to grow much faster in the medium to long term. Secondly, government has been prioritizing not only infrastructure but also investment in agriculture, but also trying to balance social services in order to improve the human capital of the population.
Mr. Robert Gobi.
I think for me, the economy of Uganda is not working for the majority of Ugandans. It's working for a few people. And these political scientists have something they call prebendarism, which is a terminology for people in government, especially those who are in politics and those who are in bureaucracy. They tend to have access to money, which they kind of use to blur their reality. The way other people look at life is not the way they look at it. I had a suggestion which I wrote recently in my column that anybody who thinks that the economy is doing well and is in government, let them get a sabbatical of 2 years. They go and face the reality. Maybe after 2 years we shall have a very, very reasonable debate on where we should take this country. And to me, I think I was being not cynical, but trying to show people that the reality is we have a lot to do to get the economy back on track.
Okay. Honorable Okotogoma.
Yeah, my brothers, I think Uganda is a very fortunate country, but at the same time very unfortunate for having maybe leaders or people who have not focused much in the development of our country. I would propose that we need to refocus our investments. One is in agriculture. The second one is in the industrialization, because that's where we are going to employ our people. And the third one on the services. When we focus on those three areas, because agriculture is about 27% of our GDP, industry is like about 27%, and also the service sector is about 50%. So if we can focus on those three areas, invest more in those areas, then we can revamp our economy, we'll create more employment, we'll create more resources for our people, and also income for our people. That is when we shall really see Uganda being fortunate enough for having leaders that are focused in the right direction. Right now, as I talk, our budgeting is not right, because about 40% is on other areas, 60% is on the expenditure side, And on development and on supply side, it is about like 15%.
Okay.
Where you can create production, where you can create productivity, it is less than 15%, which is really very bad.
Thank you very much, Honorable Koto Gong. Thank you, Mr. Ramadan Gobi. Thank you, Mr. Moses Bekavie. Thank you, Mr. Julius Mukunda, and all of you who have been a part of this discussion. So I think we have to keep, exchanging ideas for the betterment of our country and trying to build our economy, the robust economy that can serve all. Perhaps this is one of the reasons why we see if we get a financial squeeze, people are now becoming so desperate, doing so many things that even causing insecurity. You walk on the road, you don't know whether you'll be kidnapped or not. And on that, and others have actually kidnapped themselves. So thank you very much. Good night and God bless Uganda.
Thank you.